okay? There needs to be some kind of pathophysiology in it. Questions? All right, we have a lot left on this PowerPoint. In fact, we almost finished it completely. I want to say we left off after TV, right?
Yes. Yes.
So we talked about the TV and how long it takes to treat it, yes? That's kind of where we left off?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so pneumonia. Pneumonia is fairly straightforward. You ever had pneumonia? How long did that take to get over?
I had it for 3 weeks before I found out that I had it.
Yeah, 3 weeks before you found out?
Yeah, it took like a week.
Took like another week? Okay. Pneumonia, that's one of the key differences, is it doesn't take that long to get over once you start treating it. Okay, it can be caused by a lot of different things. Any kind of bacteria really can cause pneumonia. A lot of viruses can cause pneumonia. Fungi can cause pneumonia. The key with pneumonia is something got in the lungs that is stimulating an immune response and edema that is causing fluid to fill up the alveoli. Okay? So if you guys remember when we were showing that x-ray with that TB the other day, right there, pneumonia is that fluid that you can see right there. See that fluid? Right, that fluid line? Looks like somebody filled that lobe up right there with fluid, right? That's pneumonia, okay? Again, TB can cause pneumonia, but so can a lot of things, okay? So again, that's one of the major things with this. This is very, very common, okay? One of the most common nosocomial acquired infections, right? Nosocomial means what? Hospital acquired, right? So somebody will go in there, usually maybe somebody elderly, maybe they broke a hip or something, right? So they're in the hospital and they're there for a while because they're not mobile at all and not stable. And then for one of the many, many things that are in the hospitals, well, now this person's immunocompromised and then they pick up pneumonia. Okay, so pneumonia is very much caused by opportunistic infections. Okay, something that's probably floating around in the air, probably not going to catch it unless you're immunocompromised. On the other hand, that doesn't mean you can't catch it unless you're immunocompromised, because there are so many different things that can cause pneumonia. Yes?
My mom is over 55 and she often starts with what is a UTI and then gets pneumonia. Is that something we see commonly in older people?
Starts with a UTI and then gets pneumonia.
So she would be immunocompromised, but is that like something that we see a lot?
UTIs aren't very common.
Like
What?
UTI.
Yeah, UTIs aren't very common.
Aren't or are?
They're not.
They're not.
Yeah, generally.
Depends on who you ask. Some people get a lot of UTIs.
I was gonna say our paper.
It really just depends. It's as good a reason as any to get immunocompromised. I don't see that there's a specific link between UTIs and pneumonia. Does that make sense? But it's a reason to get immunocompromised. Okay. Anyway, you're drowning from the inside out is basically what it comes down to. Okay. Typically, pneumonia is in one lobe of the lung. At least that's where it tends to start. It doesn't tend to start in everywhere at once. Okay, it could, but usually they talk about lobar pneumonia. It's like in one lobe. Okay, and then it just kind of starts filling up like you saw in that X-ray. Anybody here walking pneumonia? What's walking pneumonia?
Like the pre-pneumonia.
Pre-pneumonia?
Well,
Okay, pneumonia light. You have pneumonia, but you're walking around. You're not like totally wiped out, gonna die from it. I don't know that that's actually a disease. It's how you describe a very light case of pneumonia. Okay, it doesn't seem like it's light to you, probably, because you are drowning from the inside, right? So I mean, you're coughing up, like crazy. It's really hard to breathe. It hurts. It's painful. You're really tired. You're sick, right? And it really depends on the severity, depending on what caused the pneumonia and how much load you got of it, whether it's bacteria or viral load or fungi or whatever it is. There's a huge, huge, huge range of anywhere from very mild to, well, it can kill people, okay? As you see, 6th leading cause of death in the US. I'm not sure what else to say about that. Anybody have any questions about that?
There's just fluid filling up the air sacs.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Again, if you think about having a immune response to something, whatever that something is in the lungs, that's gonna increase blood flow. That increased blood flow is one of your mechanisms that can cause edema, right? So you can get edema just from that alone, plus it is bringing in your immune system, which are causing more gunk and a bit of a battle with whatever it is it's fighting. So you have a couple of different reasons why, but the net result is you're filling your lungs up with some kind of fluid. I'm still talking, you don't have to keep raising your hand.
So does that mean like when it's like the immunocompromised stuff, does that release histamine? Is that why there's more blood flow? Because like the vessels get more leaky?
It could release histamine, sure, as part of the problem.
Okay.
Again, it just really depends what the problem is. And histamine is probably involved in all of them just because, something's irritating the lungs. But it's not necessarily all of the problem.
Is aging a risk factor too?
Aging's a risk factor just because old people tend to be more immunocompromised.
So it's
Their immune system doesn't tend to work as well. Their lungs aren't as elastic anyway. If they start coughing for too much, they can start having problems with damaging tissues and bleeding, and but more than anything, they're the people that have chronic diseases,
Mm-hmm.
right? So everybody who's getting these already has it?
Sounds like the mesh. Sounds really good.
Any other questions before? Why do I have one? I have two.
How would the pressure type be carried down? But how does the fluid get back out of the lungs once it's filled up? It's just your
What's that?
So once your lungs filled up with all that fluid?
Well, one way is coughing it out and reabsorbing it once you're better. Remember, when we were talking about edema originally at the beginning of the course, there are things that'll make you have edema go into tissues, and there are also things that'll pull it out of the tissues, right? And so when you fix whatever the problem is, then you're going to readjust that hydrostatic and osmotic pressures to pull it back into the bloodstream out of the tissues. But of course, there's always a coughing part too.
What would you say is the hallmark sign of the ammonia?
Hallmark sign?
Yeah, like is it the high? What would you say?
It looks the same as a lot of lung infections. You hear it, you don't hear it, you do hear it. You listen to it, and with your stethoscope, and maybe there's like very little breath sounds on one side and one lobe. Maybe you can actually hear a little bit of gurgling sometimes, depending on how bad pneumonia is. So a lot of it's clinical, and then if you take an x-ray, you'll see it.
Okay.
So really, the hallmark of it is you're sick, you can't breathe, and then you start clinically looking, and it becomes pretty obvious real fast whether this person has fluid in their lungs or not. Okay, so the two main differences between pneumonia and TB hallmark differences, I guess. It's one, TB can go to other tissues, okay, and organs. Okay, it does not have to stay in the lungs. It can go to other places. A good place, not a good place, none of them are good, but a common place for TB to go is like the pancreas, for example, and destroy the pancreas, okay? Pneumonia is pneumonia, it's in the lungs. You can have bronchial pneumonia in the bronchi, or you can have lobar pneumonia in the lobes, but it's in the lungs either way. And TB required a lot longer treatment. Okay, you guys were talking about a week or two recovery. TB, what was that? 6 to 9 months of serious treatment. Okay, it takes a very, very long time. Yeah? Okay, and we already talked about cor pulmonale before. I just kind of threw this in there as a reminder, right? All of these respiratory problems, okay, fine. All of the chronic respiratory problems, the emphysema, chronic bronchitis, maybe asthma if it's like constantly bothering somebody. Those are what are gonna cause cor pulmonale, okay? TB, because it takes so long to treat, could technically cause that, okay? A lot of people don't get treated for TB, which obviously could cause cor pulmonale. And death. Pneumonia, not so much. Not really gonna cause cor pulmonale, okay? It's one of those things you're drowning, so you kind of either get over it or you die. You know, I mean, some people, sure, they'll have a low-grade pneumonia for a very long time,